The era during which the Parthenon was rebuilt represented Athens' moment of greatest splendor, politically and economically speaking, as well as culturally and artistically. The temple of the goddess protectress of the city became the symbol of the highest artistic expression during this Athenian Golden Age, something that might be compared with the building of the great Christian cathedrals in medieval Europe. Phidias himself personally sculpted most of the two pediments and directed work on the reliefs of the metopes and the frieze. 3 fragments of the original decoration of the temple are preserved in the Vatican collections. The bearded male head from one of the metopes on the south side probably represents Erechtheus, one of the mythical kings of Athens. The second fragment represents the head of a child carrying a tray of offerings and was originally part of the frieze on the north side of the temple. The last piece is a marvelous horse's head, probably one of the horses pulling Athena's chariot, which decorated the western pediment. Phidias's strong personality had a marked impact on all successive artistic production, especially in Attica. The Athenian master's influence can be seen reflected in works like the draped Zeus of the Lateran Museum. And the giant head of Athena kept in the Chiaramonti Museum. Successive generations tended to accentuate the Athenian master's taste for rich, flowing drapery or subtle, transparent cloths. So much so that the result often became an exercise in virtuosity, as can be seen in the 2 statues of ἀρχῇ or in the colossal Aphrodite of Villa Barberini at Castel Gandolfo. During the same period, the Acropolis saw the renovation of another important ancient building, the Erechtheum, the southern loggia of which was decorated with a series of 6 female figures which held up the roof in place of columns. A replica of one of the famous caryatids by Alcmenes, a pupil of Phidias and responsible for the decoration of the temple, is kept in the new wing. Changes in the political-military balance of power in Greece, the decline of Athenian supremacy, the rise of new powers in the Mediterranean basin, all these factors had a profound effect on the cultural climate of the 5th and 4th centuries BC. An example of these changes can be seen in the vast artistic output of Praxiteles. Apollo, whom Homeric tradition depicted as a warlike and terrible god, is reduced to an indolent youth, absorbed in playing with a lizard. Already from ancient times, the master's most famous statue was that of Aphrodite, in which the goddess is represented stepping out of her bath. It was sculpted for the inhabitants of the island of Cnidus. Among Praxiteles' favorite themes are characters from the circle of Dionysus, young satyrs in particular, which were exceptionally popular in ancient times. Among the most famous of these is the Satyr at Rest. Distant echoes of Praxiteles, grafted onto a theatrical vision and mannered composition, can be found in one of the most famous statues in the Vatican collections, the Belvedere Apollo, whose importance in the cultural history of the Renaissance until today perhaps exceeds its real artistic merits. Winckelmann placed this sculpture at the basis of his theory of ancient art, setting it apart as the model of ideal beauty. The ongoing tradition of the athletic nude figure is renewed with a work by Lysippus. In the statue of the athlete rubbing himself down after a workout in the gymnasium, the apoxyomenos in Greek, we find the characteristics of greater lightness and impulse, together with a spatial concept that presumes the work will be admired from different angles. The same attention to composition, in which unstable balance expresses greater dynamism in the subject, is reflected in the statue of Eros stringing his bow. The unknown artist who created the group known as Silenos with the young Dionysus had similar ideas. Enriched by the dialogue and contrasting faces of the two characters placed in close proximity to each other. The Hellenistic period is traditionally placed between the death of Alexander of Macedon in 423 and the Battle of Accio in 31, as a result of which the Kingdom of Egypt, the last surviving state to be created from the dismembered Macedonian Empire, came under the rule of Rome. Among the main characteristics of this cultural phase was the movement of artistic centers away from Greece and, as a result, a variety of new experiences which sprang from the fusion between local cultures and Greek tradition. Mythology remained the favorite source for themes to be artistically expressed, although often minor or lesser-known episodes were chosen, preference being given to those that could be given a monumental interpretation, incorporating numerous figures and a setting that allowed for special effects. These elements can be clearly seen in the group of Niobe and her children who were killed by Apollo and Artemis. We gain an overall impression from the Roman sarcophagi, which simplify a group of about 15 figures into a two-dimensional relief. The Roman copies present isolated figures or couples of characters, like the eldest son with his sister, wounded by the arrows of the gods, which is in the gallery of the statues. The sculpture of most superior quality among the Vatican copies is undoubtedly the Fleeing Niobe from the Chiaramonti Museum. It represents an exceptionally fine example of craftsmanship in the rich drapery that conceals the shape of a figure in movement beneath.